Which form of government works best for residents, elected officials, appointed officials, businesses, nonprofits, government employees, neighborhood groups, and you? What everyone wants is a community that works. Effective, efficient, ethical, and resilient. We asked people from all over the country to tell us about the council manager form of government and why it works.
The voters elect a governing body, and that governing body is comprised of a mayor and council members, and they're responsible for selecting a professional and experienced city manager that runs the day-to-day operations of the city. In essence, they make sure that residents get the services that they need. They're also responsible for preparing an annual budget and managing that budget, and they implement the goals and priorities of the council.
It's best to have professional management handling the day-to-day operations. One caveat about it being an elected official is the criteria is very slim. You need to be a certain age, you need to live in the community for at least a year, be a registered voter, and that's primarily about it.
There's a group of leadership in our community that met on a regular basis. And what they asked me was one question: what do we need to do with city government to move ahead economically and strategically? And my immediate answer was, we need to change the form of government.
What residents can expect is to be able to elect officials that will certainly keep the residents' priorities in focus. Residents can hold their elected officials responsible for setting policy direction, and they can also expect the professional manager to ensure those policies are carried out with integrity and transparency.
If you have somebody in the office who can answer the phone and answer questions, it's going to be much easier for local businesses and for local lawyers to figure out what has to be done to get the result they desire. Your constituents are happier.
You have a certified professional in the city manager take charge of the administration, and you have a council of community leaders and people who are invested in their districts and know what goes on, making the decisions. And it's a perfect balance.
You can have conversations that are more long-term and more strategic with individuals in the council manager form of government. They feel a little bit more insulated from the political environment and can concentrate more on looking at the costs and the benefits and whether a program that you're talking about is going to be effective and efficient for the organization.
Local government managers can be the best friend of nonprofit organizations as we share the same mission: to make people's lives better.
The presence of a professional manager at the city or county level really adds to the efforts in place on civic engagement in that community.
For staff, they are guided by a manager who understands the long horizon. The budget process is a huge undertaking. We're not just balancing the books for 1 year. We're asking, how do our choices today impact our ability to deliver services 10 years from now?
It gives me confidence that when I'm working with that individual, that we can take something to the city council and mayor for approval, that it's based on simple merit and experience and knowledge and nothing else. No politics are involved in those decisions.
We had a couple of people working in emergency management, and they were in their own little bubble. What we have now is that there's a new employee orientation that looks citywide, not just at particular departments, and it also includes emergency management so that people have an idea of what their responsibilities would be should we have an emergency.
We had a tornado strike town, and we were in active emergency operations for about 72 hours here in the city. All of the defined roles within the plan enable us to handle and mitigate that I do have neighboring communities where it's a mayor, strong mayor type of government. The police and fire chiefs typically change hands when a new mayor is in office, and that doesn't bode well for the community, not having continuity and right person in the job based on performance and experience, not who is supporting who in an election. And we're very fortunate here. I've never had to deal with that in my 20 years as chief here.
The research that I've done on municipal corruption with my colleague Whitney Afonso points conclusively to the council manager form as being highly protective against corruption events. If you think about the mayor-council form, many proponents of that form argue that there is greater accountability due to the election of the chief executive. However, due to separation of powers between the elected and the legislative, there's separation that also means less transparency because the mayor doesn't have to report directly to council on a day-to-day basis like the manager does.
You also have the flexibility of terminating a underperforming village manager or village administrator. You do not have the flexibility to fire an elected official.
From a resident standpoint, you want to make sure that the neighbors in your community really understand that the form of government is there to protect them. Today, we talk a lot about accountability and transparency. And in a council manager form of government, you have both of those.